In early April 2025, the peaceful suburbs of Paris became the backdrop for a crime that seemed torn straight from a thriller. The father of a cryptocurrency billionaire, a man with no criminal past and little public presence, was suddenly abducted off the street by masked men. The case would quickly spiral into one of Europe's most disturbing and high-stakes ransom operations, where millions in digital currency, a severed finger, and a daring police rescue collided. The victim, a 70-year-old businessman with no direct ties to the crypto industry, was taken in broad daylight. According to investigators, he had been walking a familiar path to his neighborhood cafe when a dark SUV pulled up beside him. In mere seconds, he was overpowered, pulled into the vehicle, and vanished, leaving behind only a dropped phone and the confusion of a community that had no idea what had just occurred. When his son, a known crypto entrepreneur with a net worth in the hundreds of millions, was contacted by the kidnappers, the tone was immediately chilling. They demanded between 5 and 7 million euros, payable in cryptocurrency, threatening unimaginable consequences if he involved law enforcement. But the most horrifying part came hours later, when a package was delivered to the son's residence. Inside was a severed human finger, preserved and labeled. The message was clear. This was no bluff. These kidnappers were serious, capable, and willing to escalate violently if their demands weren't met. The family, understandably devastated, decided to cooperate with French authorities despite the risks. What followed was a race against time, one that pushed the nation's elite police forces into a full-scale, covert investigation to track the captors without endangering the victim's life. Interpol and local cybercrime experts were brought in almost immediately, tracing blockchain wallets and monitoring dark web activity to find any clue that could lead to the kidnappers' identities. Surveillance footage showed the abductor's vehicle weaving through Paris traffic before disappearing into a parking garage. That clue, while slim, became the anchor of the entire investigation. From there, police began analyzing exit patterns, traffic logs, and signal intercepts. Meanwhile, the victim remained held in an undisclosed location. Reports later revealed he had been blindfolded and restrained inside a basement-level storage unit on the outskirts of Paris. His captors were young, most of them between the ages of 23 and 27, and seemingly well-versed in both crypto and organized crime. They knew how to hide, how to threaten, and more disturbingly, how to manipulate fear with surgical precision. What investigators discovered shocked even seasoned detectives. One of the suspects, a former blockchain engineer, had meticulously mapped out the family's routines over months. They knew when the father left home, where he liked to eat, and which routes he took daily. The plan had been in motion long before the abduction occurred. Every detail was rehearsed, from burner phones to GPS jammers. As pressure mounted, French authorities faced a brutal dilemma: comply with the ransom and risk emboldening other crypto-targeted crimes, or act swiftly and risk the victim's life. In a bold move, they coordinated a sting operation with anti-gang units, tracking one of the suspects through a cryptocurrency transaction that had been partially routed through a fake VPN. One mistake that gave police the breakthrough they needed. The operation took place at night. Undercover units swarmed an apartment complex believed to be housing at least one suspect. Inside, they found 2 men and digital wallets linking them to the ransom address. After intense interrogation, one of them broke, confessing not only to the kidnapping but also revealing the location of the victim. What followed next would make international headlines. In a dawn raid coordinated with military precision, French police stormed a warehouse in the suburb of Noisy-le-Grand. There, shackled and dehydrated but alive, was the kidnapped father. Medical teams rushed in to treat him while officers secured the scene. 5 suspects in total were arrested, all between the ages of 23 and 27. The severed finger had indeed belonged to the victim, amputated in captivity, but miraculously he had survived the ordeal. The public was stunned as details of the crime were released. News outlets described the ordeal as one of the most violent ransom attempts in France's recent history. What shocked many wasn't just the brutality, but the youth and calculated nature of the attackers. These weren't hardened criminals from notorious gangs. They were educated, tech-savvy individuals exploiting the vulnerabilities of a digital age elite. During interrogations, investigators learned that the group had targeted the crypto mogul after tracing multiple blockchain deals linked to high-profile business ventures. They believed his digital wealth would make it harder for law enforcement to intervene, assuming wrongly that crypto transactions would be untraceable. But in their arrogance, they left just enough breadcrumbs for authorities to follow. The father, recovering in a secure medical facility, later gave a heart-wrenching statement about his captivity. He described being locked in darkness, hearing the footsteps of his captors outside the door, and wondering each night if he would survive until morning. Despite his trauma, he expressed gratitude for the police and emphasized his desire to see the kidnappers face justice, not revenge. The crypto billionaire, who remained largely silent during the ordeal, later appeared in a televised interview, visibly emotional. He admitted to feeling powerless, despite all his resources and digital wealth. "No wallet," he said, "no amount of Bitcoin can prepare you for the sound of someone you love screaming over a grainy phone call." His words sparked a global conversation about the real-world risks of digital fortune. French prosecutors have charged the suspects with kidnapping, torture, extortion, and attempted murder. If convicted, each faces decades behind bars. But beyond the legal fallout, the case has prompted renewed scrutiny over crypto security, digital ransom crimes, and the growing phenomenon of targeting individuals who live in the shadows of public financial success. Experts warn that this is only the beginning. As cryptocurrency continues to rise in popularity, so does its attraction to criminals. Unlike traditional bank accounts, crypto wallets are borderless, hard to regulate, and when in the wrong hands, nearly impossible to reclaim. Law enforcement agencies across Europe are now working with cybersecurity firms to prevent future cases like this from becoming the norm. The psychological toll of the case is still unfolding. Therapists working with the family report symptoms of deep trauma, anxiety, and even survivor's guilt from the victim. The son, despite regaining his father, now lives under heightened security and has begun selling off parts of his digital empire, perhaps a signal that even titans of tech aren't immune to the cost of exposure. This wasn't just a crime about money. It was about power, fear, and the fragility of control in a world where wealth moves faster than laws can catch up. The scars left behind, physical and emotional, are proof that sometimes the most valuable currency isn't in crypto. It's in time lost, wounds endured, and the lives almost taken. As the story fades from headlines, one detail still haunts those who followed the case. The severed finger, delivered like a signature, is now evidence in a courtroom, but it remains a symbol of how far some will go for digital riches, and how close this crime came to ending in tragedy. If this story shocked you, remember, this is just one of many unfolding in today's criminal underworld. Subscribe to Crime Chronicles to uncover more unbelievable stories, disturbing truths, and the dark side of modern crime. You never know what's coming next, but we'll be here to tell it.